Hey, looks like it is now 5 o'clock according to my timekeeping device. Um, and so, just as a reminder, and for the folks who are new this time around, I do have the Zoom meeting set so that when people enter the room, their microphones are muted automatically. And that just helps us if people join late. It doesn't disrupt the meeting. So the rule is if while I'm playing a song, it's best to keep your microphones muted, simply because the sound doesn't work right over the interwebs that way with Zoom. Um, but if something is wrong, if you can't hear me, if something is going awry, please just unmute yourself and call it out. Um, because I'm in the middle of playing, I'm not looking at the computer screen, so I can't see if you raise your hand for a question or something like that. So feel free, if something does not sound correct, to just unmute and let me know. Um, the other note that I like to tell people is that I am attempting to record this session, and usually I can get the link out for the recording about a week later. Um, as some people know, I tried to record last month and something went wrong, so it never really recorded. But that's okay. Tech, you know, technical trouble happens. All right, so I like to start with a tuning check, and also it also makes sure that you can hear my dulcimer. So, um, excuse me while I get untangled. Um, a lot of dulcimer instructors don't do this, but I find it can be helpful for a number of things. In case it's best to have your dulcimer tuned like mine so it sounds correct when you're playing on your end. So I am going to switch my camera to my dulcimer camera. I hope you can see that. Um, and the first, when we talk about practicing advice later on, I always tune my dulcimer every time I sit down to play it. And that's something that is just ingrained in me. So anyway, I always start tuning with my bass string, which is the big fat string farthest away. That's what my D string on the bass string sounds like. Hope yours sounds similar. And you can hear my dulcimer, right? Thumbs up if you can hear my dulcimer. All right, cool. um, and then the middle string is A. And then the melody string, the string closest to you, is D, an octave above the bass string. So, okay. So, having, it looks like most people are getting there tuning wise. Um, is there any questions with that at this point? I know there's a lot of new folks joining us, so if there's no questions, we'll move on and start playing our first few tunes that we like to open up with. Um, and I like to share my screen so that you can see the tab on the screen while I'm playing it. And that's what I'm doing now. About to share this screen. Okay, we don't need the sound on. And we want to go to this other application. Oh, and that can go away. So it doesn't cover the music. All right, so for those who know this song really well, and there are a couple of you here, I know. Um, I would offer and suggest that you might try a few variations on Liza Jane. One variation is to play the melody on the bass string. You can do that through the whole song. Okay, you can switch back and forth from the melody to the bass string. The other modification I'll show you is a little more advanced, and it's called using adjacent notes. So for the first note, which is really on the 2 fret, you can get that by doing a really fast slide from the 2 to the 3 back to the 2. So that would sound something like this. And likewise, going up from the 2 to the 4, you can go start on the 5 and quickly slide down. So that's just for the folks that have been with me for a while and have probably learned this tune backwards and forwards. If you're brand new, I've never played this tune, then just join me with the melody, and we'll play it really slow. Now, a couple of notes with this particular tune. At the end of the 2nd line and the end of the 4th line of the music, you'll see 1 2 2, and the vast majority of people just play that as 1 on the bass, open on the middle, and 2 on the melody. So it's up to you. You can also just join in and just play the melody line, and it sounds perfectly fine for this tune. All right, we're going to start. I count to 4, and then we come in because this is in 4/4 timing, and we're going to play it really slow to begin with. 1 2 3 4. Does anyone have any questions on the basic melody of the song? Nope. Okay. So, how about we play it again, and I'll play it this time 3 times through. Okay. Play it about the same speed. Were people following me at that speed? Thumbs up if you were able to follow, and that's okay speed? Okay, good. So I'll play it 3 times through. The purpose of playing it repeatedly is that if you get lost, it gives you a chance to come back in again where you can. So if you get lost, if you make a mistake and have to stop playing, try to keep listening and listen for where you come in again. All right, I'm going to again count to 4. 1 2 3 4. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that you are hearing my dulcimer, right? I think I asked that question before, but I just want to make sure. Thumbs up if you can hear my dulcimer.
It's kind of quiet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I have to switch. I got to switch the audio. Thank you for that. I am going to switch that microphone and turn.
Way better. Way better.
Turn that on. Okay. Again, count to 4, and then we come in. 1 2 3 4. Back to the beginning. Back to the beginning, last time. How was that? Good for people? Yep. Okay, I'm seeing head nods. Thumbs up. All right. So I'm going to move on to another beginning song called Cripple Creek. And I've mentioned in the past that sometimes it helps to just sort of sing or hum the tune before you play it. And in this case, it helps because the timing of this song, even though it uses a lot of the same notes as Liza Jane, is very different. So in this case, I got a gal at the head of the creek. Now, if you kind of get that pattern in your head, then you'll get the song eventually. This song is also really helpful for practicing your strumming in and out. So when it's just a quarter note, like the very first note is a 7, you just strum out. But then the next two notes are eighth notes, both 7, and in that case, I suggest you try, or practice at least, strumming out and coming back in to get that 7. And then the 4 is again just a strum out, and then the 2s out and in, and then the 3s, and then the... So it's just something to practice. If you're not already comfortable going in and out, this is a really good song to practice that strumming in and out in rhythm with the tune. All right, and if okay, so this song has a repeat, so the first 2 lines repeat, and then the second 2 lines repeat. And again, I'll play it through 3 times, and I count to 4 and we come in because it's in 4/4 timing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to the beginning. Any questions about that song or how to finger any of that? And did people understand about if you're not already well versed in strumming back and forth, it's a good song to learn that technique. Okay. All right, so let's move on to...
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
At the end of the second line, there's no melody note. Are you playing just like the bass and middle string on those?
Oh, yes. Very good question. So I am tending to strum all the way across, right? In this particular song, I'm tending to do that, but there are a lot of times when you won't want to do that. And in those cases, you can practice just strumming the bass and the middle strings. And then you have to get back to the melody string on the very last note of the line. The reason why you want to practice that is because when you're playing chords, the highest note that is in the chord tends to be the prominent note of the chord. So my technique of strumming all the way across for that measure, like this, all right, that actually sounds very different than just striking the middle and the bass string like this. The melody stands out much more if you're just striking the bass and the middle string for that strum. But that's kind of an advanced thing you have to practice. So in these beginning sessions, I just strum across all the strings for those.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, long answer, but it was a really good question. And there are often times in tab where you see an X on a particular line, and that's where the arranger of that music really doesn't want you to play that string. So bear that in mind. All right. Black Mountain Rag is our next intro song. This song has 3 parts to it. The first line repeats, the second line repeats, and then the last 3 lines actually have an internal repeat, so you'll hear that during the song. But again, it's in 4/4 timing. I count to 4, then we come in, and I'll play it through 3 times to help get into the practice of coming back in if you get lost or if you have to stop for a reason. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry. I wanted to also mention to those players who've been with me for several months now and know the song really well, all of those other techniques that I had shown with Liza Jane, you can also use in this song too. I mean, you can use it in any song. You can play on the bass string, you can use adjacent notes to work your way into it. So if you've been playing this for a while and you're really comfortable with this tune, try some of those more advanced alternatives. All right. Again, I'll count to 4 and then we'll come in. And this time we'll really play. 1, 2, 3, 4. Second line. Third line. back to the beginning. That first line again. Second line. Second line again. Third line. Going back to the beginning one last time. Third line. Big finish. Woohoo! Alright, I'm gonna stop the screen share for a minute so that we can chat a little bit. Alright, come on, we can do it. Stop. Yay! And I'm gonna change my video around so you can see my smiling face. So, how was that for folks? New folks that have just started today, is that okay? Yep, good. Alright, alright. So, typically during these sessions, I like to start with those 3 tunes and play them. And as I suggested, as you get to know them better, you can start playing around and improvising over them. I think maybe next time I'll talk about what are called pentatonic scales. And that's what every musician anywhere uses to improvise on stuff. And that's just to give you insight into that, and also to give the folks who've been here multiple times and know these songs inside and out a chance to practice their improv a little bit. But right now, I wanted to switch focus a little bit and just mention a couple of things that I think are important for practicing your Mountain Dulcimer, and quite frankly, they're kind of the same thing as anything that you're trying to learn. The first thing to understand is that everybody calls it practicing your instrument, but it's really a combination of learning and practicing, right? And, you know, no one walks around and says, oh, I'm going to go learn my Mountain Dulcimer, right? We all say, oh, okay, I'm going to practice. But in reality, it's a combination of those two things. And you're usually, in all of your practice sessions, you're doing a combination of learning something new and practicing something you already know. And it's helpful in your own mind to set up your practice sessions in such a way that you are practicing stuff you know already, but then also you spend a little bit of time learning something new, because it can get really boring and really frustrating if you just practice the same stuff all the time. So that's why I suggest just understand the difference between learn and practice, and use both of those things in every practice session. It's kind of like when we all learned how to drive a long time ago, right? You had to go and learn the rules of the road, and that you did by reading a book, right? And then you had to actually get in a car and drive and practice. If you were learning with a stick shift, you had to practice a lot of stuff. You had to practice your clutch foot as well as your changing gears and stuff like that. But you still just had to practice how do I move the steering wheel to navigate around a corner when I'm making a turn, right? And really learning the Mountain Dulcimer is no different than anything else. It really just takes time and effort and practice to learn how to play this instrument or any other instrument. I've said it before here many times, and I'll say it again. No one is born with an innate ability to play an instrument. They might have a great voice and were born with a great voice, but to play an instrument, they have to learn how to play it and then practice playing it. And that's just the way it works. Most people, I'm not a performer. I don't perform. I don't enjoy performing. But a lot of times you'll see people who are performing. They just had the National Mountain Dulcimer Championships out in Winifred. And those people, like if you watch those videos, it's like, wow, they're really talented. No, they really practiced a lot, is what I'm saying. And I think that's what's important to take away from this. It's way better any practice is better than no practice at all. So just bear that in mind. If all you can do is 20 minutes once a month, okay. You'll make progress. It'll be slow, but you'll still make progress. It is way better. The more you can practice, the faster you will progress. So if you can get up to 20 to 30 minutes at a session, during a session, and then have those sessions be like 4 or 5 times a week, you will see improvement much faster. And it is important to practice in short segments like that, rather than try to cram in 2-hour marathon sessions on the weekends, right? Because your brain learns something by practicing it, learning it, looking at it, practicing it, and then sleeping on it, and then coming back to it the next day or the day after. That's how as far as people who have studied this, that's how people know that the brain works in terms of learning something new. So that's important to try and get to, that 20 to 30 minutes 4 or 5 times a week, and you'll see progress really quickly at that point. The other thing I suggest for the dulcimer, everyone sits with their music like directly in front of them this way, right? So it's like they have to turn their head to look at their music and then turn to look where their fingers are on the fretboard, right? Because you're sort of looking off to the left, right, when you're looking at your fretboard. So I suggest put your music right there by your left knee so that you can see your music and your fretting hand at the same time. Everybody does it with it right in front of them because they see
other music, I think, I'm not sure about this, but I think they see other musicians with it right in front of them, like violin players and trombone players and, you know, a whole bunch of other different people who play a musician have the music right in front of them. Well, in their case, if you think about a violinist, they're playing like this in the orchestra, and they're looking at their music while looking at their fingers at the same time. And the same thing with a trumpet player. I used to play trumpet in the band when I was, you know, in school, and your music is like right here, and your fingers are right here. So that's why I suggest when, at least when you're practicing, try to offset your music so you can actually see your music and your fretting hand at the same time, or very close to it. And the part of the reason is then your head movements aren't like this, you know, they become, instead of something like this where you're really moving your head, it's just you're lifting your eyes a little bit. And so that can be helpful with a Mountain Dulcimer. And then the other thing I suggest is plan your sessions so that you get in music, playing music that you know well at the beginning and end, and then try to learn something new for a few minutes in the middle, and then also practice things like scales or just noodling around. If you're brand new and are still trying to learn your fretboard, then strum each fret and call out the name of that fret. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and look at your fingers while you're doing that. Do that a few minutes for each practice session and go all the way. Most people don't play much past 12 or 13, but you know, go all the way up your fretboard to at least 12, and that will cement the fret numbering in your head really quickly if you do that. Some people like, so that's how you break up your sessions. The first 5 minutes, play something you really like and you know how to play well. Last 5 minutes, do the same thing, even if it's the same songs. But then in the middle, try to learn something new, and then also try to practice something, so that you're really making the most out of that practice session. And then a couple of other notes. Some people recommend that you record yourself practicing every session. And personally, I don't do that because I know I get distracted by my phone. if I'm fiddling around trying to figure out how to get that device to record, I'm not practicing, right? So that's why I don't do that. I do record songs, and when I record, I'm focused on recording. When I'm practicing, I'm focusing on practicing. But some people can do that without getting distracted, and that's fine. The one recommendation that I thought was really good about this is don't listen to the recording right after you make it. So if you're going to record a song, play the song, record it, let it sit for a few weeks, keep practicing that song, and then record it again after several weeks of practice. And then compare the two tunes, the two recordings. And what you'll see is, oh, I really played it a lot better after practicing it a lot. And that just cements in your own head, oh, I'm making progress as I'm practicing. I'm playing the songs better. So anyway, that's another thing. The last thing I will say is you can learn about playing the Mountain Dulcimer while not actually having the Mountain Dulcimer in your lap, right? So there's like a great magazine called Dulcimer Player News. They're if you don't subscribe to that, I highly recommend it, because you get the magazine and you're sitting in your easy chair at night with nothing to do and you read the magazine. Well, that's learning about your instrument, and any opportunity you have like that, there are Facebook pages, obviously, there's a museum. Any opportunity you have, to learn more about the dulcimer, even while you're away from it, it's very helpful. And lastly, the other thing you can do away from your dulcimer is play air, like everybody used to play air guitar, but you can do the same thing with your dulcimer. You can play air dulcimer. If you're riding in the car and a song and have the music on, you can strum with your strumming hand to the rhythm of the music that's playing on the car radio, and that's really helpful in getting your strumming going if this is lagging behind. So just a couple of thoughts about practicing. Does anyone have any questions or other suggestions about practicing that really helps them that you want to share?
I do.
Yes, Jane.
I used to, when I was watching television, have the dulcimer right next to me. When a commercial came on, I played through every commercial.
Now that's a great way to add practice time.
Yes.
Um,
I'll mute myself again.
all right. Anyone else have a great suggestion, or even a suggestion that just works for you that you might think is not so great, but others can learn from? No. All right. All right.
Do I mute? Yeah, I find that if I have, well, with the two cats, it was hard to set up the dulcimer in the camper. But now that we're back home, I can set it up in the guest room and just leave it set up. And I found that if I have to take it out and set everything up and then put it all away, I just pick up the ukulele that's hanging on the wall instead of the dulcimer. So, but now that we're home, I have it set up in a certain room, and I find that every day since I've gotten home, I've been playing the dulcimer. Practice at least for, even if it's just for 10 minutes, I'm walking in and picking it up and playing it. So, having that set place has been helpful.
Yeah, that's another great suggestion. Have an area where it's set up and ready to go. So if you realize you're 10 minutes early leaving for an appointment, you can sit down and play for 5 of those minutes without too much rigmarole of getting the dulcimer out of a case and down off the wall and those kinds of things. Having your music stand set up and ready to go, really helpful. And the only big caveat there is make sure it's, for those of you who live in the cooler climates like I do in southern Vermont, make sure you don't store your dulcimer close to like a heating duct or the wood stove. Unfortunately, I had a couple of people who ended up with really badly damaged dulcimers because of that change in because of the heating systems up here. Other issues or questions or suggestions for practicing? All right, so hearing none, I think what we're sort of on time to do is move on to the songs that we play towards the end. The first one of those is Morning Has Broken, so let me get that up on the share. Share screen, start broadcast. Dun 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 dun. This is all going to work out technologically, right? Okay. Don't need the device audio, and I need to go to this. And that can go away because it hides the music. Oh, Mississippi Sawyer. I guess I didn't list that on our... Oh, I forgot that on the agenda. With the new folks here, I think we'll hold off on playing this. Unless you guys want to play it. Thumbs up if you want me to play through Mississippi Sawyer. I got 1 thumb up, 2 thumbs up. Okay, so I'm sorry I didn't have this on the agenda. I should have, but we can play through it. This song, I gotta turn my camera around. There we go. This is an old fiddle tune. This song, it just has an interesting pattern to it, and I believe it really helps cement playing quarter notes and eighth notes in a really, really good way. And those are the most frequent notes you'll find on a dulcimer. All right, so this is in 4/4 timing. However, there is a pickup measure at the beginning. The first measure is not complete. So in this case, I count to 3 and then we come in. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Second ending. Okay, and I'm sorry for the new folks who are here. If you're not familiar with reading music, let me just explain. This song also repeats. The first 2 lines repeat and the second 2 lines repeat. However, in this case, there's different endings for each of the repeats. So, and that's what you'll see at the end of the second line. You see under the first D, there's a little 1 period in a bracket, and then under the second D is a 2 period in a bracket. And the same thing is shown at the end of the 4th line, the end of the song. So that just means that when you play the first part, the first line and the second line, and you play the first ending, that's the number 1 ending, when you go back to the beginning, you don't play the pickup measure again. You just begin at where the repeat sign is under the D at the beginning of the song, and then you play that again, but then the second time through you skip ending number 1 and you play ending number 2 instead. And the same is true for the last line of the song. Does that make sense to people? I'm sorry I didn't explain that at the beginning for those of you who are not really familiar with reading music notation like this. Play it one more time.
or move on. Thumbs up for playing it one more time. I got another thumbs up. I got one thumbs up. Okay, 2 thumbs up for playing it one more time. Anyone for moving on? One person wants to move on. Bonnie will move on. Alright, so let's play it once more time, and Bonnie will move on after that. And I will only play it once through. I won't do the 3 times through for this song. Alright, again we count to 3 because of the pickup measure, and then we come in. 1, 2, 3. Second ending. Alright. So again, this song is really helpful to practice the in and out strumming on wherever there's an 8th note. Those are the notes that are tied together by the bar across the top of them. And it just helps you get this in and out strumming going, which you will need eventually. Alright, Morning Has Broken. This is a beautiful song, arranged beautifully by Steve Smitth from the Western North Carolina Dulcimer. They took a huge hit with Hurricane Helene, and as you know, people are trying to track down everyone. So this song, for those of you who know it and play it well, you might want to try the chorded arpeggios, which I demonstrated a couple of times ago. Right? Those arpeggios on those chords. For the new folks, you can just play the melody line. You don't have to play all the chords. And in fact, for most of these songs, you can get away with just playing the tab on the numbers that are the very lowest on the music. That's the melody line, and it sounds perfectly fine. Whoops. Whoops. It sounds perfectly fine if you get the notes right. Okay, so I'm going to play it straight with chords, and then you guys decide how you want to play it, and try to improvise a little bit. This song is in waltz time, 3/4 time, and there is no pickup measure, so I will count to 3 and then we come in. And again, we'll play it really slowly so that folks can try to get their fingers on it. 1, 2, 3. That okay for people? Some head shaking, thumbs up, questions about it? Anyone want me to, you want to play that one again? Maybe, yes? Yes, oh, yay. Got an enthusiastic thumbs up. Okay. So again, if you're able, try to do a little arpeggiating. Arpeggiate just means to pick each individual note of the chord separately. And it's a really pretty way to play this particular song. But again, if you're just beginning to learn it, the most important thing is to learn the melody and where the melody goes. Because like every folk song on the face of the planet, melody rules. So you really, if you're just learning to play this song, you really have to focus on that melody. All right, again, we count to 3, and then we come in. 1, 2, 3. Pretty song. Another thing that's really helpful when you're learning to play a song on the Mountain Dulcimer, when you know how the song goes, when you know the words to the song, it's helpful to sing along as you're playing it. I'm a horrible singer, so I won't subject you to my singing. I did earlier. That was probably enough. But it's really helpful to sing this, even if you're just singing it in your head and not out loud. And part of the reason is because your brain, almost everybody knows this song already. It's in your brain. And that just helps it flow from your brain to your fingers on your dulcimer much better if you sing it like that. Okay, questions? Everybody looks like they're doing okay. All right, let's move on. Gray Cat on a Tennessee Farm. This is another fun song. It's played in jams a lot. So it's a really great song to learn on your Mountain Dulcimer. It's an easy song to memorize, so I suggest, like Liza Jane, Cripple Creek, this song is a great one to memorize. There's really not a lot to it. And
memorizing a tune helps you play it faster, right? So bear that in mind. It helps. It definitely helps you increase speed. And yeah, this song has the first line repeats once, and then the next two lines don't repeat. It looks like there might be a repeat in there, but it isn't. So let's head right into it. This is in 4/4 timing. We count to 4, and then we come in. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just a couple of things to point out. when you're playing this song, it's a good idea. You're going to play 4, 5, 7, and you're going to hold that 7 down until just before having to play the next 4, 5, 7. So essentially you want to get in the habit of holding the notes for as long as you can until you have to play the next note. That just smooths out the playing a great deal, and it helps when you gain speed. The other thing I can mention is a lot of people will anchor a finger, like my ring finger is anchored on the 4, and then I play the 5 and the 7 with my thumb, but I've never actually lifted off my 4 finger. So it's right there ready to go when I play it again. Okay, again, that's to increase speed. You want to practice these techniques, because this song goes really fast in most jams. Right? So in order to get that speed up, you want to practice some of these techniques. Likewise, on the beginning of the second line, I'm actually putting down my ring finger on 2, my index finger on the 3, and my thumb on the 4, and I play that first 0, 3, 4, and then all I do is lift my thumb to play the 0, 3, 2. People see that? And you can get really fast. You can start getting really good speed at that point. Okay? So anytime you can pre-place fingers for something that's coming up. It's a good thing to do. Shall we play this one more time slowly? Yes, some shaking of heads, thumbs up. Okay, we'll play this one again slowly like we did before. And again, when you're practicing, when you're first learning a song, it's really important to play it really slowly, because you don't want to learn mistakes. You don't want those mistakes to get ingrained in your head. So learn it really slowly. Once you're playing it okay, slowly, try to speed it up. You know, always try to play it once or twice during your practice sessions, having, you know, speed it up a little bit, you know, a little bit each time. Make it, you know, try to speed it up. All right. So we're going to count to 4 and then come in. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sorry. Right, my bad on that one. Questions about this? Again, it's a fun song to learn. It's played a lot of jams. It's a great song to memorize, and it's a great song to practice getting faster. Okay, moving on. Whiskey Before Breakfast. Again, this is a good fiddle tune. It's it's a standard in dulcimer jams, and it also within it is these runs of which are very common in a lot of songs. There's this particular version of this song has what we call 2-finger chords. So if you're just beginning to learn chords, this is a great song to practice that chording in. Okay, 4/4 timing, not 3/4 timing. 4/4 timing, no pickup measure. So we count to 4 again, and we're going to play it really slowly. Another thing, I'm not sure if you can see in the video, but I have really gotten a lot out of the fact that I use my foot to count the time. I'm sure you can't see it, but when I do 1, 2, 3, 4, I start moving this knee 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the time I try to keep throughout the whole song, and that's really helpful. A lot of people say practice with a metronome. I find metronomes incredibly annoying, like everyone, but once I started using my foot and my knee to count time, it was a lot easier to keep time. All right, so again, 4 beats per measure, so we're going to count to 4 and come in. 1, 2, 3, 4. That section repeats. The third line. Third line again. So I didn't call it out before we started, but I hope you noticed we went way above 7, the 7th fret on this. We went up to 10, and so that's why I was saying earlier about if you're not comfortable that high on your fretboard, it's a really good thing in your practice sessions to just call out those numbers. So here I'm at 7, so I'd play 7, 8. My dulcimer has an 8.5 fret, which yours probably doesn't, so mine would be 7, 8, 8, 8.5, 9, 10, 11, 12. So if you do that a few times during your practice sessions, that's the learning part. You'll be more comfortable playing higher up on your fretboard. Questions about this song? Does anyone want to play it again, or do you want me to move on? Whoops, there we go. Shall we move on to Who's Gonna Shoe Your Pretty Little Feet? This song is, again, a cute song. It's useful to learn to play. I'll just say this particular version, at the end, the last line of the song, I just play 1, 0, 2 pretty much the whole way until the last, almost the last measure where the D is, and then I just take it off. I don't do the 1, 2, 2s or the 1, 2, 1 in this song. So that becomes Who's Gonna Be Your Man? Oh, I guess I switched to a 1, 0, 1 there. Who's gonna be your, with 1, 0, 1 man? This makes it easier to play and sounds about the same, because the 1, 2, 2 is about the same as that. There's a little difference, but most people can't hear that difference. Okay, so this is in 3/4 timing. It's waltz timing, so I'll count to 3, and then we're going to come in. 1, 2, 3. Sorry about that. Okay, the other thing I probably should have mentioned, if you're not familiar with reading music, at the end of the second line, at the end of the last line, is a measure that has like a little hat in it with a period after it. That's a full measure rest. And usually with a full measure rest, you just keep playing whatever you were playing before that, instead of in other circumstances and playing other instruments, you would actually stop playing. But in this situation, we're going to just keep playing through there. Alright, so I'm going to play this through one more time, okay? And we'll count to 3, because it's in waltz time, 3 beats per measure. And here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oops, sorry. I'm going to start the third line again. What did I do wrong? Oh yeah, okay. I know what I did wrong. So I'm going to count to 3 and we'll come in on the second line. 1, 2, 3. There's that rest for 3. Done. Is that okay? Sound okay? Folks following me? Okay, head nods, yay. Alright, so we have
3 more songs to play. These are a little more advanced, but for example, Abide With Me, this is in the key of G instead of the key of D, so it will just overall sound a little different. But again, with this song, if you're new to playing it, just focus on playing the melody line. That's the 5, 5, 4, 3, 7, right? So you can just play those melody lines and that's fine. It'll sound perfectly okay. And again, you have to get the melody before you can do pretty much anything else. If you've been playing this song for a while, please try the chords, and maybe try some grace notes. For example, you can play this song like this. Whoops. And that's a combination of arpeggiating the chords and also adding some great grace notes. I'm going to play it straight. It's in 4/4 timing. Count to 4 and then we come in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. Remember that thing I said about making sure you can see the music so you can play it? Yeah, that was that. Any questions about this song? Well, let's play it once more since it may not be less familiar to folks. Again, it's in 4/4 timing. I'll count to 4 and then we'll come in. 1, 2, 3, 4. How did people do? Thumbs up if you think you did okay. All right, yay. So. All right. It takes practice, you know. You're familiar with the tune, but getting it out on your fingers will take a little practice, and that's fine. All right, this next song, Psalm 23. This song, there's some extra, like, if you see in the second line, about the middle of the second line, you see a 0 to a 2 with a tie with it, and there's an H over that. That means hammer on. And then there are other places that have SL, that means slide. And then there's PO down at the 1, 2, 3, fourth line at the beginning of the fourth line. That's a pull off. And then at the very end of the song, you see there's sevens and there's little diamonds next to them. That means the arranger, me, suggested you can do a harmonic at that position. You could ignore all of that stuff if you're a beginner. Those are just like the arranger thinking, oh, it's pretty to throw this in here. But as you are learning how to play the song, you can ignore all of those suggestions and just play the song straight. And that's entirely up to you. There was a session we had a couple of months ago that demonstrated these different techniques, and so I'm happy to send that video to other people if you're interested in that. And then in an upcoming session we can go over it again in more detail. But let's play the song. It's pretty straight. It's in waltz timing, 3 beats per measure. The first measure is a pickup measure, so instead of just counting to 2 in this case, I'll count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then we'll come in. Because just counting to 2 doesn't really give you a sense of the timing of the beats. So we'll count essentially 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then we'll come in. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And the harmonic, instead of fretting, if you don't know about harmonics, instead of fretting the 7, you very lightly put your finger down on top of the 7th fret, excuse me, and strum way back here behind the strum hollow. And as soon as you hear the bell-like tones, lift your finger off to let them ring out. That's a harmonic. Question about that? It takes some doing. The trick is to strum way back at the fret hollow, behind the fret hollows, essentially as close to the end of your dulcimer as you can. And then again, you're not fretting behind. You're just very lightly, gently touching the strings just directly above that fret. Like that. And again, usually because of, there's 3 verses to this song, so you'd play it straight 3 times and only at the end play that flourishy harmonic at the end. Does it make sense to folks? Good, okay. Let's move on to our last song, Simple Gifts. In this case, some of the melody goes up on the middle string, like the first 2 notes. And in this case, instead of strumming across, as the question was earlier, I just pick those individually to make them stand out from the rest of the melody. All right, this is in what's called common time. That's 4/4 time. So there's 4 beats per measure. I count to 3, and then we come in with those 2 open on the middle string. The other thing I'll say about this, anywhere where you see my handwritten numbers, you can ignore those and just play the melody line. Rob Brereton provided this to us in a workshop at Dulcimer Days, and you know, we had to enter in the chords we wanted to play, but the printed numbers, not the handwritten numbers, is the actual melody for the song. All right, here we go. We're gonna count to 3 and then come in because there's that pickup measure at the beginning. 1, 2, 3. Third line. Last line. Let me count you in again. I'm sorry, I messed it up. Count to 4 and then we'll come in. 1, and we're going to start at the last line. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go back to the beginning. Yay! All right, let me turn off the share. Woohoo, woohoo, woohoo. And move my camera around. So how did that go for folks? Any questions? Good? Yeah. Any questions or suggestions or comments or need help with something in particular?
I have one question. When you're strumming, are you way back in the dip?
No.
Or just anywhere on there is
No.
fine?
Another great question. So, and this you'll want to practice and play with in your practice session. Depending on where you strum along your fretboard, you will get a different sound. Okay. If you strum way back in your fret hollow, it will sound different than if you strum up closer to the eighth fret or the 9th fret. And that's a very useful thing once you get more advanced to change how the song sounds, right? So a lot of times with folk music, you're playing the same melody over and over and over again, going through a lot of verses. And when you're playing that as an instrumental, it can get boring to hear that same played same straight, right? So a lot of people will vary where they're strumming just to vary the sound up a little bit for part of a verse or a whole verse. And that's a very important technique to learn, and each dulcimer will sound different. So it's a really good idea to practice strumming at different positions on your dulcimer.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Are people generally getting a good sound when they're playing? Yeah, okay. Sometimes you miss a note or two. That's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. The key is when you miss a note or if you get lost, to try and find your way back into the song. If you're playing with other instruments, no one is ever going to hear those mistakes, and no one's really going to know that you dropped out. It's only if you're playing by yourself that people will notice it, and that's really important. Take-home message is that if you play with other people, like in a jam, or if you find yourself in a dulcimer quartet or whatever, it's very common actually. And people do it on purpose, again, to vary the sound. They will on purpose drop out of the sound and let somebody take a solo for a little bit and then come back in again. I'm sure you've all heard this in the music you listen to. And so it's just a good idea to practice that. Oh, I missed a note. I'm going to drop out for a minute and then come back in again. That's another really good thing to practice during your sessions. And you can do that by playing 2 YouTube videos. When you have the YouTube video in your headphones, playing, and then you're playing your instrument. So that's another really great way. Or if the other way to play it is if you have speakers. If you're in a quiet room, you can just have it playing on the speakers on your computer and play with the song and practice that. Oh, I got to come back in. Oh, I made a mistake. And yeah. Other thoughts or questions? We're right at 6:30. I really appreciate you guys being here and sticking with me for an hour and a half for this lesson. I really hope that it was valuable.
This
Like
was
your
the
shirt.
very first time for me.
The very first time for someone. Yay.
Like your shirt.
Oh, yes, my shirt. My husband got me this shirt. It's not hoarding if it's dulcimers.
It's a good one.
It is a good one. We live in a very small house, and I have 7 dulcimers. Ah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good night.
I will send you the recording. And hopefully you can rehear it all if you need to. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.